Welcome to the Epoxy Business Podcast.
Proud member of the Woodpreneur Network, home of the #1 podcast in the wood industry. I'm Steve from Acres of Timber and Woodpreneur Life, and along with my co-host Jake from Ol Loggin Sawmill, we'll be diving into the world of resin and epoxy every week. If you're a maker or wood entrepreneur interested in learning the ins and outs of the epoxy business, this is the place for you. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy this episode.
The Epoxy Business Podcast is proudly sponsored by
Ol Loggin Epoxy, the premier epoxy and resin system for professional makers and wood business owners. Making exceptional products starts with the right tools and materials. Visit olloginepoxy.com today and find out how to take your projects to the next level. Once again, that's olloginepoxy.com.
Hey, welcome back to a brand new episode of the Epoxy Business Podcast. I'm your host, Steve from Acres of Timber.
And I'm your co-host, Jake, with Ol Loggin Sawmill.
And today's guest is Ryan Cochrane from Canada. He's our Canadian Olympian friend. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys? Thanks for having me on.
Good. Well, he's an alum. Ryan's an alum of the Woodpreneur Podcast. And after that podcast, he introduced me to this whole other world of all of his good Instagram maker friends. And just in this past year has become an important partner with Ol Loggin Epoxy. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your journey with epoxy? How did you become such a ninja with it?
Well, it's kind of quite simple. I saw this product out there on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, and it's something that I used before, but in a different way, because it was more for I was using it more like in a kayak, because I was a kayaker as an athlete. So I was using it like more for like boat building processes and things like that. So thinner, different types of epoxy. But I was like, oh yeah, okay, this is cool. But I was watching a lot of people make these river tables and do stuff like that. And I was like, I would like to see if I could do that. And anyway, somebody reached out to me on Instagram. Alan, a friend of ours, reached out to me and said, hey, do you want some product? And I said, yeah, I'd love to give it a go. And I'm kind of working with it a little bit already. When I started working for the company that I'm currently working for, which I actually ended up buying with some partners. And it just kind of spitballed from there, because my style is, if I do something, I do it. There's no halfway. I'm going to go into it. I'm going to just figure everything out. I'm going to learn everything about that product and everything I can do with that product. So it kind of became an obsession, let's say. And from there, it just kind of kept rolling. And it's been years now, and it feels like it was yesterday.
Yeah, it's probably been a good 4 or 5 years now since I
started using it. About 3-4 years at least since I started using deep pour epoxies. I was using some other epoxies before that, like I said, but time flies.
Can you tell us about the business that you just bought?
Yeah, so it's just a little over a year ago. I was working for this. After my athletic career, I decided I'm going to apply for some jobs, and one of these popped up, making tables. So I was really excited. I went down. The guy was like, boom, come on, work for me. He was all excited. He's like, oh, it's kind of funny, because he was like, oh, Olympian wants to work for me. And me, I'm like, oh my God, a guy that wants me to build tables for him. So it was a good relationship. He owned this company for 30 years. His name was Richard Cochrane, which is really funny because it's very close to Cochrane. And he was an English guy in Quebec. And for anybody that doesn't know, Quebec is primarily a French-speaking area. And I'm also an Anglophone. So I started work. He's like, when can you start? I was like now. And so we started having we had a good relationship for about 2 years. And then he told me he wanted to sell the company, and he wanted me to be included in that. So I became a key employee and a shareholder in the business. And now my title would be Director of Production. So I basically I kind of control all of the manufacturing, the shipping, warehousing, packaging, everything. So we do quite a bit of business like online now since obviously since COVID. But it's been really fun. And it was kind of this interesting journey. And really the reason I got there was mainly because of that personality to just keep working hard and to always trying to be better than I was the day before.
Now your business is solely making tables, right?
Yes, mostly making tables. We do some other stuff. We manufacture some other things here and there, consoles and stuff like that. But we do import a lot of furniture as well and resell it. But mostly for the manufacturing side of things, it's mostly tables. Yes.
Tables. How many of those are they all just regular tables, or any of those epoxy tables too?
Well, here's an example. This week, as of tomorrow's Friday, so tomorrow I'll pour my four last ones for the week. I've poured 20 river tables this week. Not all river tables. Some of them are like they have like just a giant hole in the middle of the table, but they'll still take up like 2 or 3 gallons of epoxy. But in total, 20, and 18 of them are already sold.
So, and what are you doing? Like 100 tables a month?
It's on and off. Sometimes we get a big order. So we had an order for 16 river tables. So that's why I'm pushing that. So we just.
How many associates do you push out that many river tables?
Well, I'm gonna try to finish this order in 2 weeks. That's my goal, and I think it's kind of. I mean, I've got employees too, right? It's not just me. So
Yeah.
That being said, but and they're a really good team. So, and I'm really proud of them. But we recently purchased a wide belt sander, 51-inch wide belt sander, which really sped production up big time.
Yeah.
Really, really, really big time. I mean, we went from a 4-hour hand sanding process to be able to do it in 5 minutes.
There you go.
We can get the table to 120 grit in 5 minutes now instead of 4 hours. So it's really sped things up, and it's allowed us to be able to take on a few of those contracts. Yes, it's a big investment initially, but it's at this point, like I bought this machine maybe a month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
Wow.
And it's pretty much already paid for itself.
That's so cool.
The reason we bought it is we had a contract for 30 tables, and we fulfilled this contract to a very big furniture company in Quebec. We do mostly wholesale. We do have a retail store.
Yeah.
But we mostly do wholesale. And it's been interesting taking that view from me being a kind of a perfectionist and really wanting every single table to be like perfect, and also like really attentive to details, to creating a production run on that, a real production run. It's been a really fun process trying to learn how to develop that kind of a skill set and pushing it into a production skill set, because sometimes when you do production, you lose a little bit of the quality. But that was one thing I said, we're not losing the quality. We cannot do that. So, you make mistakes when you're setting up new products, and it just gets, okay, that one goes to the side. And
what I meant to, I don't know if I asked you this before, but like, what was the process of changing careers? Like, how'd you deal with the change of, being a high level professional athlete to, to what you're doing now? And then how did you apply your skills as an athlete to what you're doing now?
That's a really funny question. So it basically boils down to being too old.
Okay.
Being too old as an athlete. Not really. I was still, when I finished my career, I was still at peak performance, but there's lots of things involved. There's politics involved. There's like, basically my last race, I had bronchitis, acute bronchitis. I got sick. We were racing in Montreal in the spring. right where you guys were a couple of weeks ago, actually. And it didn't go so well. And, when you're an older athlete, you're living year to year as an athlete. You're on a year to year or 2-year contracts. You're not on a 5-year contract. So it gets stressful, and it gets hard. And I had 2 kids at the time. I still have 2 kids. But basically what happened was it became, is this enough? I at that point I had gone to 2 Olympic games. Was I going to go to a 3rd one just to go? At that point I was kind of thinking, I don't think a medal is in the cards for me. There's always a chance, but I didn't think there was, so I said at this point, maybe it's better for me to focus on something else. And one of the reasons why I was a really good athlete, I found this out afterwards. So this is very interesting. And this is something that maybe sets me apart from a few other people. I wasn't a good athlete because I was a talented athlete. I was a good athlete because I put everything into that, exactly that. And I focused on it, and I tried to be better at it no matter what. I did have a certain level of talent. Obviously, everybody as an athlete does. But I come into the woodworking world, and all I do is YouTube, books, practice, make mistakes, fail again, fail less, fail less, fail less. And eventually it becomes a rhythm. And I just kept focusing on it. And I would spend 12 hours at work. And that's just what I did. I would work for 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, come home on the weekends, work in my shop on the weekends. That's what I did. And I would play in my little shop here at home. And I would learn new things, and I would talk to people, and I would, that's exactly what I did as an athlete. So I took all of that kind of like that mentality with me from being an athlete into being a woodworker. But I also still have the same view that if somebody wants to talk to me, I'm going to listen. When you start thinking that you are better than somebody else is the second you stop learning. So if I'm talking to somebody who's brand new into woodworking, I listen to them as if they are an expert, because I often learn the most from people like that, because they come often, especially DIYers and new people that are not, let's say, classically trained. They have a different perspective. And that's what I had too, coming into this business. I had a different view on everything. Like somebody's like, oh, you can't do that. I was like, I'm going to try. And I was able to do it more often than not. But it's not a traditional view sometimes. That's okay. And so I brought that with me. Also, I do have the attitude to say no less and say yes a lot more. And also, but that being said, I'm not talking necessarily about taking contracts. It's more like if somebody says, do you think that's possible? Yes, but then you kind of do the research and say, well, it's possible, but is it feasible, or is it practical, or?
Yeah, that's cool, man. I like that mindset a lot. And I mean, you were one of the first people when it comes to like, so you introduced me to like Nathan and then Ginger, and like you started telling me about how you like accelerated your learning with woodworking strictly by keeping up relationships. I mean, Jake talks about this a lot, about like the value of networking and being in DMs and having conversations with folks. And I mean, the fact that you were able to, scale so fast and in a short period of time become like an epoxy expert, right? Like I'm sure all of that helped, right?
It takes 10,000 hours to be an expert in something. Okay. That's just a general thing. It takes 10,000 hours to be an expert in thing. If you want to be an expert quickly, spend as much time in it as you can. Mm-hmm. It's very simple. And another thing, you talked about networking, and the reason networking is so important, and people don't really understand this. And you know what? It kind of bugs me, but at the same time, it's also like kind of, okay, good. It's going to be more beneficial to me and not to you. There's 2 things in life that monetize, and it's not YouTube. There's 2 things in life that monetize: connections and knowledge. That's it. Those are the only 2 things that will continuously pay out for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And sometimes for the rest of your children's and your children's lives. Those connections you make are going to open up possibilities. So I just made a really nice new connection. I won't really go into detail about it, but I made it through a friend, Pat Lapp, who's a maker here in Quebec. Also was on Netflix show Making Fun, and he introduced me to somebody that took another avenue, which was unexpected but totally welcomed. So
That's part of work.
just because this is how I explain it to a lot of people. Everyone always wants to win the lottery, right? And they're like, oh, if I won the lottery, I would do this, I would do this or this. Oh, did you buy a ticket? No. Well, you can't board the train without a ticket. If you don't put yourself in a position to receive luck, you're never going to receive luck. So that being said, meet as many people as you can, be a good person, be professional at all times. You can have fun, still be silly, but professionalism is a different way to look at it. And then you're setting yourself up for the possibility. You know, you can meet 100 people, and out of 100 people, maybe 99, it's like, okay, it is what it is. They're, you know, we're just going to be acquaintances, but that one person is going to be like, hey man, let's do this. And you're going to be like, yes. And then it's going to create business opportunities. It's going to be good for your mental health, your physical health, maybe, who knows? So you never know where it's going to go.
Absolutely.
That sounds like me and Steve's story right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so cool. Hey, what?
And now you guys are going to F1 together.
Yeah. Well, you gotta
know.
come next year. You gotta come next year.
Yeah. Oh man, absolutely.
Tell us, where do you see epoxy going? Like, where do you, like, if you were to put a crystal ball, right? Read the crystal ball. Where do you think state of epoxy business is going?
Just let me shake my magic 8 ball for a sec. It's funny you say that because, you know, I enjoy traditionally woodworking with hand tools and doing that kind of stuff. And so many people that are traditional woodworkers they have a hate on for epoxy. It's a fad, it's a trend, it's going out of style. If it is, it's been here for a while because, well, how many years ago were they saying that? And they're still saying it. The reason epoxy is, there's two reasons I think epoxy is not going to go away for a very, very long time, if at all ever. One, because it opens up creative avenues. So it allows people to do things that they normally couldn't do, and to add color to things, and to just, I mean, you can go from casting to art resin. You could, the possibilities are endless. And we're just seeing people daily doing different things with epoxy. And two, it allows you to use pieces of wood that you never would have been able to otherwise. So for example, some of the slabs that we import from Thailand, they have massive holes in them. Who wants a dining table with a giant hole or big crack? But then you add epoxy to it. Now that just doesn't become, you don't waste 75% of that wood just to create lumber. Now you have a massive slab that you use every single piece of it. You have very little waste. So yes, it's technically a type of plastic, but you're not throwing that plastic away. So it's not creating an environmental problem, so to speak.
And
but what it
wood
does do is it saves every single piece of wood. Now, on the other side of it, it's driven my wife friggin' mad, because now I'm keeping every little piece here and there because I'm like, oh, I can do something with that. I can do something with that. I actually do end up giving a lot of wood away because I keep a lot, and then it piles up and I go, okay, hey, can you use this? And I message somebody, hey, take this, and they love it. You know, so that's another thing. It creates another connection. And now I just gave a load of wood to Pat Lapp. He gave it to Paul Jackman and Vic Teslin. I don't know if you know those names, but they're,
I know Vic Teslin. Yeah.
Very big names in the woodworking community. So it's kind of interesting. So that wood that I held on to, ended up going to 3 awesome makers. So I'm really excited to see.
They're super talented. Yeah. Like super duper talented. Yeah.
I mean, if you know Paul's into using a lot of pallet wood.
Mm-hmm.
And Pat Lapp is a very, very good wood turner. And then you have Vic Teslin, who I think he's just started with the Fine Woodworking Podcast or something like that. His woodworking skills in a traditional sense are on another level. So when we were together a couple of weeks ago, I made the joke, like, are you mad at me for using all this epoxy? And he's like, no. Everybody has their own niche. And so he looks at it the same way. He's like,
yeah.
You want to do that? That's great. You're still you're doing something. Because no matter what, at the end of the day, it's about making something that makes you and somebody else happy at the same time.
Yeah. Cool, man.
Well said.
What do you, this is to make Jake and I feel better about ourselves. Why do you like working with Ol Loggin Epoxy?
Why do I like working with Ol Loggin Epoxy?
Yeah.
Well, why?
What is it about the product and just like what we're building, and why are you part of it?
Well, mainly I like the people behind it. I like professionalism. Jake has always been a professional. You as well, Steve, but dealing with Jake has been like very pleasant, very, very, very fun. And if I have an issue, Jake tackles everything you have, every question and every situation you have as a business owner himself, and he understands. So that being said, yes. But the other thing is the product is very good. And what I really liked is feedback was accepted. Often people are like, oh, thanks for the feedback, but we don't need that right now. But feedback was always accepted and welcomed. I never felt shut out for giving my opinion. And to me, it's really important because I really like to dive into something, try to use it differently, try to like push the limits. Like, okay, let's see if this thing can go to 4 inches, and but then you find the limits, and that's what's cool about a new product. Or you end up learning the product to the exact specifications, and actually I found that, okay, I can do this depth of pour at this temperature, and you kind of, it's like a science. Well, it is a science, not like it is a science, but it's really fun to do that. That also the product, especially the Loggin 2, it's so clear. Like every time I pour it, and I made a sample over a year ago now. I made a sample and I put it outside at my business. It went through the sun, the snow, the rain, -40 Celsius. I think it's actually the same at -40. It's also -40 Fahrenheit. Plus 30 degrees Celsius, which is probably like 90 degrees, I think, something close to 90 degrees, every season for a whole year. It has not cracked. It is still the same color. It's still clear. It's not yellowed. So
that's right.
It's been proven, man. It's been proven.
And for those of you that don't know, listeners that don't know, Ryan's been a pioneer of. You were a lifesaver for me, man, when this first rolled out, because it was just a handful of us testing this product out. And you were like, you hit me up every day. You knew exactly when you're testing everything, and you were a lifesaver, man. Whenever we were rolling out this new product, you were other boys. So
and we made some good changes too.
Oh yeah. We made especially that blue dye at the very, because we were all worried. We were all worried of that first part. It's like, man, it was like amber around the edges and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was really weird because it was super clear looking down through, but when you saw from the side, it was yellow. So we fixed it.
Yeah,
that's not occurring anymore.
And that's great. And that little bit of us coming together and coming up with that changed the whole product.
Absolutely.
With the look and everything like that. Now it looks crystal clear from the side. That because of that little thing we came up with. So yeah, for those listeners,
it's the same all the way around, man.
Yep, Ryan has been
bottom top
core our business is like this, and we appreciate everything you've done and helped us with.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, that goes back to the same thing I said earlier. Everything comes around, right? You know, it's an attitude. If I'm willing to help you, maybe you're willing to help me. Maybe you're not, but that's okay, because it wasn't about that. It was about the opportunity. And I think too many people, they immediately want something in return every single day. And I heard somebody say this, you know, if you're an employee and you work like you want a raise, work like you want a promotion.
Yeah.
Because you're more likely to get it. You know, you might not get it. Don't get upset about that. You're still pushing your limits. So it's the same thing. I was full on board for that to test, and it's fun for me anyway. But I knew immediately, I'm going to test this product. It's going to be beneficial to me and my business, but it's also going to be beneficial to Jake and to Steve. So it was a full circle win-win scenario. There was no lose in that scenario. And the only question I had at the beginning was, are we going to be able to change a product if we need to? Well, we've already changed it twice.
Yeah.
For the better. And I think we're in a really good place with that product right now. And once you stabilize that product, then it's okay, let's go on to another one and find something else we can do and start testing it, start pushing it. And so that's fun. And I'm excited for that journey.
And what a huge difference with the last company that we were with, because for also those who don't know, me and Ryan worked together with the company before, and we couldn't talk to chemists like that or make changes like that. And that's where we really strived and liked this company, because we were actually able to talk to the actual chemists and actually find the root causes of situations and find a solution for it.
And when you say that, so here, I think a lot of people understand this, will understand this. Chemists and accountants are similar too. Everything is in a controlled environment or on paper. This is the way it works. Well, if you've ever worked with epoxy and wood, or even wood just by itself, you know that everything is going to be different every single time. The wood has stress in a weird place. You cut it, you find out, boom, oh, your saw just clamps. Every single time something's different. So if you want to test a product, truly test a product, test it for what you're planning to use it for. So a lot of times people will test that product in an environment, in a closed environment, which is great, because you need to find, that's the first step. But the second step is taking that and putting it in the hands of people who are going to use that product, and then asking for feedback. Okay, yeah, I tried to pour it with wood 2 inches deep, and it worked perfect. Oh, there was a few bubbles on the sides. Oh, it created too much heat. Oh, all these different things. And it's not bad or good. It's just learning and understanding. And that was the big difference for me. The fact that we had that ability as people that are going to use this product every single day to have feedback, to actually see that we gave feedback and have people listen and go, oh, okay, we're going to make that change. Correct. And yeah, maybe it was just me, you, and a few other people that our opinions were voiced, but I think a lot of other people kind of went through us too, and like they said, yeah, okay, yeah, there's a problem with the yellowing or this and that, and it's like, there's always going to be the people that are like, well, I don't like it because it doesn't do this. Well, it's not meant to do that. You're trying to do something that it's not meant to do. If you're going to do that, then you got to figure out how to do it. Don't expect it out of the box to work in a different way. Epoxy is a very difficult beast. So you have to work for it all the time. It's not always going to work for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that sounds like a quote. That sounds like a quote. Let's quote that. Okay. To the editors, let's quote that for the highlights. So Ryan, well, thank you so much, man. How can people follow you? What's your Instagram? What's your website?
Instagram is at Cochrane Kayak, COCHRANE KAYAK. TikTok is RPC Woodworks. Website currently don't have a website, but my shop website, where my boutique is DLoft, DLOFT, www.dloft.com, and you can see all the products that we sell, make, manufacture, all there. So that's basically all of my platforms.
Awesome. Thank you. Awesome, man. Thank you so much. I'm really excited and proud to have you part of the Ol Loggin family, man. Thank you so
Absolutely,
much. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate it, brother, as always. Very much.
All right. Talk to you soon.
I've enjoyed everything so far. So
yeah, more memories, more epoxy, more business in the future.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And I really appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you so much.
All right. It's our pleasure, man. Take care.
Hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Epoxy Business Podcast, proudly sponsored by Ol Loggin Epoxy. Make sure you subscribe and follow us so you don't miss the next episode. For more information on other offerings from the Woodpreneur Network, you can check out woodpreneurlife.com. We'll see you next week.